Let's talk about happiness and peace and love and joy, shall we? In part 1 of this video, we talked about why our relationship with happiness is so often bumpy or even confusing, about the limiting beliefs that stand in our way to true and authentic happiness, and also how we get attached to things, places, states, even people, and how this can sabotage our happiness and keep us stuck on this constant seeking and resisting and seeking, what I call kind of living from waiting rooms. I also shared with you first and the most important step to bring more unconditional happiness and peace and love and joy into your life, which is becoming more present, which is living in here and now. So if you haven't seen part 1 of the video, I really encourage you to start there, and it will all make much more sense to you. So today we are going to talk about 2 more steps, 2 pathways that bring you closer and closer to what we all deeply long for. So the second step that you can make towards bringing this unconditional happiness and peace and joy into your life is the choice. Happiness is a choice. And that sentence used to freak me out so much. It frustrated me so much. So if you are having the same kind of a reaction right now, I get it. I thought, yeah, right, I'm really struggling here. Yes, my husband has just left me with 2 small kids. I have to earn some money. How are we going to survive? I feel betrayed and abandoned and not good enough. And I felt like too tired to get up and leave bed in the morning. And you telling me that happiness is the choice, seriously. So remember that if you are going through a tough time right now, through intense emotions, if you are in the middle of some kind of a life crisis, in these situations there are other kinds of support that are needed until you build your resilience and until you come to peace with whatever challenges you're facing in life right now. So it's just like we never say to a person who is depressed, right? Happiness is a choice. There is a time for everything. But it's good to remember that even the most difficult circumstances, we do have a choice. We are never truly helpless. We might feel helpless, but that's a very different thing. We might have very little choice over our circumstances, over how other people think or behave. In truth, like we even have little choice over plenty of processes that are happening inside our own bodies. But we always have a choice how we want to respond to whatever is happening. So if you are in a relatively good place right now, can I ask you, do you practice peace? Do you practice happiness? Do you practice love? Do you make space? Do you invite in a very active way this happiness, peace and love into your everyday life? Because happiness can be an everyday practice. And again, it requires a bit of rewiring, but it's totally doable. Rewiring is necessary because our minds are biologically wired to pay attention to the negatives. By default, we notice what is not working out, what is not good enough, and what would be better instead of what actually is. And it's a mechanism designed to keep us safe, to keep us well, and very often it does. But it certainly has the huge potential as well to keep us never satisfied, never fully content, quite often cranky or complaining, and very often comparing ourselves to other people, right? So starting from now, I would like to invite you to very consciously start creating some pockets of time, like little bubbles of peace and happiness in the middle of your everyday life. When you stop for a few moments, when you take a few breaths, and when you make space to acknowledge and appreciate and be grateful for what is already here, for what is just right, for what is good enough, like in here and in this very moment. You can start like right now just by taking a few breaths, by looking around and finding 3 things that in this moment feel just right to you, that you can be grateful for, that you can genuinely say thank you to. And this practice of saying thank you, this authentic, genuine thank you for small things, as many times as you can throughout the day. It's the simplest practice on earth, right? And actually, it can be a deeply transformative practice. It can bring plenty of peace and happiness and joy your way. So another thing that helps me very much and plenty of my clients is the question that is coming actually from Sedona method. Can I be open to the possibility that all this that is in front of me, that all this is already whole, is already complete, is already enough? It's just noticing and enjoying small things like your morning coffee, like the feel of your favorite blankets, like beautiful sky over your head. But also stop in moments which feel far from perfect. Like again, take a breath and ask yourself, what if all this which you don't like, this which you feel angry with, this which you feel anxious about, what if all this is already whole, already complete, and already enough? Can you be even open to this possibility? It's a very simple question, but it's a beautiful doorway to unconditional happiness. And I would also like to share with you a quote coming from Dorothy Hunt, which says it all in a very beautiful and concise way. So this is what she says: in the choiceless, never-ending flow of life, there is an infinite array of choices. One alone brings happiness: to love what is. So let's talk about the third pathway to happiness. And this is something that I think is absolutely necessary. And this is surrender. So check in with yourself. For me, there is this sigh of relief even when I say these words: I surrender. Just try to stop for a moment and say it quietly to yourself a few times. Or you can say it aloud if you prefer to say it aloud. I surrender. I surrender. Surrendering is very different from giving up, right? It is acknowledging that there is something, there is a power bigger than you, whatever name you want to give to this power. God, love, life, universe, beingness, awareness. But acknowledging that there is some power bigger than you and that you can trust it. And trust is the key here, right? Because we like to be in charge. We like to be in control. And we take so much on board. We carry so much on our shoulders. We try to carry the whole earth on our shoulders sometimes, right? And we are very serious about it. But realistically, there are billions of processes going on in your own body right now, and you have no control over them. And probably you don't even know that they are happening. and the sun is rising in the morning, and the seasons keep changing, and you are spinning around the sun with a crazy speed, yes, held onto a planet with a force you have no control over. Remember these merry-go-rounds. Sometimes, usually they have horses there, but sometimes on some merry-go-rounds you have, many different cars and animals and boats, and sometimes even bikes. And little boys and girls, they kind of paddle their hearts out, believing that they make the thing go round. The pedals are not really attached to anything. So aren't we doing the same so often in our life? What would it feel like to let go, to surrender, and to just be? This joyous, trusting surrender, wouldn't you feel at peace, happy, and loved if you believe that you are always, no matter what, taken care of? So I want to share with you a beautiful poem by a Persian poet, Hafez, that kind of catches it in a very brilliant way. So the poem is called Tripping Over Joy. What is the difference between your experience of existence and that of a saint? The saint knows that the spiritual path is a sublime chess game with God, and that the beloved has just made such a fantastic move that the saint is now continually tripping over joy and bursting out in laughter and saying, "I surrender." Whereas, my dear, I'm afraid you still think you have 1,000 serious moves. So I really encourage you to catch these moments when you think like you have 1,000 serious moves to make. And actually the easiest, the most happy, the most loving choice might be to surrender. So this tripping over joy and bursting into laughter, this most natural happiness, peace and love is what we all long for. And it doesn't come from things, from states, from relationships, from substances. It comes right from our true nature, from being here and now, from trusting and surrendering, from accepting and embracing our imperfect human nature and our divine perfection, or the divine perfection of all that is, at the same time. So I want to give you an example from my own life when I started to believe that this kind of happiness and peace, this unconditional kind of happiness, is actually possible and fully accessible to all of us, not only to some spiritual masters who have been, meditating for the last 20 years. And I think I realized it for the first time fully when I met my beloved teacher and now friend, Rani. That was over 12 years ago. So someone mentioned Rani to me and her course in breathwork, and I looked it up online, and the moment I saw her photo, her picture, I knew I wanted to learn from her. I didn't know anything about breathwork at the time. The school was in a different city, over 200 kilometers from my home, and I didn't have money to pay for it, but I just knew I had to go. And I vividly remember the first day when I came to this big hall where we were having our classes, and I didn't know anybody. I was a bit self-conscious and unsure, and I met Eva, my dear friend now, at the door. She was the organizer, so we were talking, and while we were talking, I saw Rani running towards me from the other side of the room with this amazing smile on her face and with her arms open, and I was overcome. She didn't know me at all. It was, the first time that we met, and yet she was greeting me as if we were old friends, like reunited after a long break. And it felt like that. And I saw later that she was greeting everyone in the same way. And it felt so authentic, so true. Because some people run towards you, yes, with their arms wide open, and you feel like just turning around and running away, right? And sometimes it's the best strategy. But here, Rani had this peace, this joy, this love. You just loved being in her presence. And this peace and happiness and joy cannot be faked. And I've seen Rani over the years to come in many different situations, with people going through extremely difficult challenges during the course, with conflict and drama that was happening in the group. And many years later, Rani was visiting me here in Ireland. And while she was here, her beloved father passed away. And there was immense sadness and tears. But at the same time, this peace, this wholeness, this joy of life was still there, untarnished by the sadness and loss. And witnessing this changed my own life, and I'll always be very grateful for that. So my mission now is to share this with you and with as many women as possible, because we need to see that this peace, this unconditional happiness, this joy is the most natural thing, is a thing accessible to everyone. It's the most fulfilling way of being in the world and of living our lives. And this peace and happiness and love is in each and every one of us. And it is in you too. It is your true nature. It is who you truly are. So let's keep discovering it together. And if you want to dive deeper, we are waiting for you in our inner circle and on our regular self-love retreats. There are links in the descriptions, and I would be delighted if you choose to continue this journey with us. Thank you.